I want to pick up and talk about the stages of a discussion. I've alluded to it already this morning. I'm on page 9 in section 2. In order to reach understanding and agreement, meeting members collect and offer information, communicate clearly, organize information on the options, and make a selection of the best approach. It's important for us to understand how a conversation or a discussion unfolds. And this sounds a little simplistic, but let's talk about it, and I think you'll see the importance. 3 stages: open, narrow, close. In the opening stage, we're starting the conversation. We're gathering information. In the second stage, narrowing, we're organizing the information. And in the third stage, we're ready to start making a decision. And it's important that we go through each of these stages. It's important that we don't skip over one. It's important that we don't get bogged down in one. That we go through them in a coherent order and way. All right, on the next page, on page 10, let's start talking about tools in this process. And the first one is opening. And there are only 3 openings that we're going to talk about. And they depend upon the amount of content that we need to discuss. The first one is to make a proposal. I turned to our special ed teacher in this last IEP meeting and said, "Do you have a proposal for placement?" And he did. He had, actually it turned into 2, but he started with 1 proposal. The next step is to make a list. If we have several things that we need to talk about, I will make a list of them. And I do it very much in a brainstorming fashion. If we've got, say, 5 things that go up on the list, I want to get them up here. And I'm not going to let people talk about them until we get them all up there. And then we'll circle back and talk about them. If you put 1 up here and we go into closing on it, or narrowing, really, organizing our information, and then we go to the second one and we do the same thing, and then the third one and we do the same thing, you've forgotten what we said about the first one. So I want to get them all up here, and then I want to do it in a way, and I want to record the information so it's visual. And again, you're going to hear us say for the next 2 days, visual. It needs to be visual. It's so very important. The third one is brainstorm. All of you have been in brainstorming activities. It's wide open. So think in terms of, in the opening part of a conversation, you have a proposal. It's very narrow. List is a little larger. Brainstorming is wide open. So you start the conversation depending upon how much information you think you have to process. Now I have clarify down here. This is not a tool, but a reminder. We need to clarify at every step of the way to ensure that everybody has a shared understanding. We talked this morning, Joyce asked you, what, when you come to a traffic light and it's yellow, what do you do? And the room was divided. Think about an IEP meeting where we're dealing with complex information and you're speaking in tongues, special education tongues. How confusing it can be for the parents and our general educators. Now, the special educators probably all know what, you guys talk plops? What the heck is a plop, a parent is saying? You know, so truly, we've got to speak English and make sure that everybody has a shared understanding. Going back to our placement for little Kevin a while ago, and resource, if we said, all right, we're going to put Kevin in a resource program, what does that mean? It could mean many things. So we've got to drill down to make sure that when Mr. and Miss Kevin wake up in the morning, they're going to know what we're going to do as it relates to that new placement. So, and I've got everybody here, and I can handle that now. That's why I constantly kept asking for clarification. All right, any questions, or do I need to clarify on opening? All right, let's narrow. on the next page. We are now organizing our information, and that's all we're doing is organizing. The first step is to get rid of the redundancy. We combine the duplicates. If you have even a list, but definitely if you've done brainstorming, we may have 2 or 3 or 4 things up there that are so close to their meaning, we can kind of combine them, and now we have less information to process. Now, the next one, the advantages and disadvantages. And we actually used that for Kevin. And the advantages and disadvantages, here is the pull-out program, and here's the after-school program. And we did it on one page. If I am trying to organize information, say about a placement, a lot of times I will use an individual sheet for each option. But here's what it looks like. Advantages and disadvantages. This is not a delta. This is a disadvantage. And let's say that we're talking about placement. And here's an advantage, and here's an advantage, and here's an advantage. Now, you open it up to everybody. It's not like, okay, this is the group that proposed it, so what are the advantages? And here's the group that's against it, so what are the disadvantages? It's open to everybody. So we've gone through the advantages, and now let's talk about the disadvantages. Okay, as the facilitator, I'm going to step away from this and ask a question. Any observations? The way we've organized this information, can you look at this and make an objective observation? And let's say this is a placement option, and I'm asking you, group, what observation are you making about this placement option, the way we've organized our information? Yes, and I like the way you said that. The disadvantages outweigh the advantages because this is not weighted. These statements are not weighted. We could have one over here that could trump several over here. But what we've done, we've organized our information in a very visual way. Narrowing. We talked about combining duplicates and doing the advantages and disadvantages. Remember, guys, we're organizing information. We're narrowing. The next step is advocate. And I do these in this order. And typically, advantages and disadvantages solves the problem. We're having a discussion, and Nancy is obviously supporting option A. I'll say, Nancy, would you take a minute or two and organize your thoughts, and then tell us why option A is the way to go. Donna, you're obviously supporting B. Would you do the same thing? All right, Nancy, go. And Nancy does her thing, and Donna then does her thing. I have seen Donna look at Nancy and say, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yes, I see what you're talking about. Or I have also seen Nancy, as she's organizing her information, suddenly realize there's some gaps, some holes in her argument. So again, guys, this is narrowing. All we're doing is organizing information. We're not ready to make a decision yet. We started the conversation in opening. We organize in narrowing. Now, let's make a decision. Let's go to closing. You want to do that one?
Closing. So here are 4 tools, and I believe we're on page 12. My numbering is a little bit off. Is that correct?
We're on page 12.
Okay, thank you. There are 2 models and 2 things you can do that are opposite sides of the same coin. A straw poll and a negative poll. Now, we don't vote in an IEP meeting, and that's not what I'm suggesting. I am suggesting, that we can take the temperature of the group. And by that I mean I might say to the group, okay, so everybody at this table is in agreement that we're going to go out for dinner tonight? Great. Okay. I might turn to this table and I might say, who here can't live with going out to dinner tonight? And Marshall raises his hand. Now I have created, with asking in a negative poll, that question, a safe place for Marshall to express a minority opinion. That's the advantage of a negative poll. And he may say, Joyce, I've got a conference phone call on the West Coast. I'm not going to be able to make it, but you guys go ahead. Great. That's very nice. We'll bring you back a doggy bag. So that way, we have created a space for him to express that opinion. If you ask solely based on a straw poll for agreement, somebody might sit there and kind of go, oh geez, I guess I'll go along with it. And then you have to worry about a saboteur afterward and whether they're going to blow up the IEP you've already got an agreement on. So that's the key. The next tool is build up or eliminate. Build up or eliminate. So I get a hand when I ask the negative poll and they, no, Jane can't go along with that. And I might say to Jane, Jane, what will it take to get you to buy into this? Build up. What can I add to this? And Jane might say, well, you know, if I could just get an extra 15 minutes of speech a month, I'd be happy. Great. Okay, I bet we can work that out. Fine. So I've built up. The opposite of that is same kind of tool, eliminate. Jane, what's standing in your way from buying into this? What's holding you back? And you know, when you think you have people in a group that are being contrary, that are just taking a stand for the sake of taking a stand, build up or eliminate is a wonderful place to get that out and to get around that issue and see what's really going on. That elephant that Doug talks about that's in the room that we always are referring to. This is a wonderful, wonderful tool. The other one at the bottom of the page is a both and. Doug talks about using the advantages and disadvantages. So we kind of did this with a little Kevin this morning. We had a both and. We looked at some of the things that were part of the placement for pullout, and we looked at some of the things after school, and we were able to come to an agreement. Wow, it looks to me like we have a lot of advantages for placement A and placement B. Is there a way we can do both? It gets people out of their positions and gets them thinking about where they can look for that common ground that they can come together. You know, I am in favor of placement A, but I sure do like that stuff over here under placement B. I sure wish we could do those things. How are we going to make this work? And we can come up with a blended program. That's the advantage. Is it everything we want? No. But can we live with it? Yes. Live with, support, and implement. There's that consensus piece again. Any questions about these? Okay, on the next page is information about building agreement. There are 3 sections to building an agreement. You present a proposal, you check for understanding, and you check for agreement. All 3 pieces are critically important. Now, we tend to leave one of these off many times. What is that? And what bites us in the behind? Yeah, exactly. So, in the example that Doug used earlier, a resource program. Is the resource program in every single one of the schools in Connecticut exactly the same? So I have a child that moves from one program to another. Is it going to look the same? Is it going to be the same? Are we going to have the same understanding? No. We need to make sure we clarify that and we make sure that everybody understands that agreement.